Okay, everyone's got one of these? Those of you that are joining us at home, you could have got one of these in class. I don't have them uploaded anywhere, but I will make a folder, I think. So don't worry about this. Oh, well, I guess I can, just kidding. Get rid of you. I guess you're probably going to see my head at some point. I don't think the recording is the best way because most of it's just going to be silent because y'all are going to be working page at a time. Okay, that's going to be, I don't trust you to not be silly. Whatever. Okay, so everyone's got one of these. We're going to, we're looking like silent sheet. Okay, Ryan, be next to somebody. Anybody, because this is learning a social. Sunscreen. That's just my face. Oh God. Well, you're beautiful. Okay, Ryan, be somewhere. Are you waiting? Is someone joining you?
I don't think so. Next to you.
Okay, that sounds a great idea. Okay, so we're gonna do this step by step at a time. I'm gonna give you the first, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm gonna give you guys 10, 12 minutes to just do these. I would recommend pencil. In case you're wrong, we can scratch out, and we're gonna take notes, and we're gonna add on to these questions. So why is that answer choice and why it's not this other one? So starting off, you are working together. This should not be a silent room. This should be talk room, just on the first page. So I'm gonna set a timer, and this is now where you walk through these questions with a friend, with people next to you.
I didn't know there was actually
Okay, so I'm gonna give you another
it's a race.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe give him time.
Okay, I'm giving you time. I can
Shut
Because you're allowed to involve
Which of the following 5% Yes. We're not even
it's like you can't say hey, honestly, you're
don't
gonna
even
kill a person.
compare remotely. I was either why would it not cheat on the, I'm gonna cheat on the reviews, let me do that.
Mostly because they can't play. They can't they can't straight up lie. They can be oh, this is about you guys eating apples and
So do you accept? What do you think? Accept, he accept. All of the following. Or no, it's talking about generalizing from the sample, so I think it's that's obvious. That was also obvious.
wait, where do you see?
Like they have but I see generalized or before. So I don't think it's the active deep random stuff like that.
It's not. You're hearing the correlation. Personally, I think it's a. I don't know.
Which is a fine research.
Correlation doesn't have cause. Yeah. So it got to be but say to prove that the amplitude, so you
you skipped.
So that makes
sense.
So hey, can you this is
Hey, are you done with the number 5? And give us time to catch up.
You have it? Okay, so I'm looking at the one that says which of the following research approaches and but also experimental
So
Oh, I'm sorry, you had it before.
No,
What?
This was on the test. If you have one standard deviation,
Because also, what is your answer to?
one answer is
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. And like E looked really weird.
Yeah, that's why.
I got D's
I
so
also
far.
drew.
Oh my god. They all look research that makes sense. Thank you.
One standard deviation above. Yeah, it's like
I remember
it's
60.
definitely like below 60.
I remember
we talked about
Oh,
that.
yes.
I'm gonna put
I
on
think I
here.
recognize this either.
It's
Square of the average.
That's right. I haven't read, I didn't even read all the answers. I looked at one of them, right?
I think
Number 10, I didn't hear that.
that's how Xander does everything.
Yeah. What do you think I rolled on the
You've
test?
seen.
Yeah, I only passed like one test this year. So
Yeah.
I don't remember.
There's too many G's. Yeah, I did pretty well on the last one.
Just doing the front page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk about questions? Answers interview? Like, like these.
Oh, no, we're writing them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would remember the very first one. This is operational definitions like the definition. It's just like there's specific. How do you define? Like a chocolate thing.
What is chocolate? What is anger?
Yeah. Like how are you gonna measure anger? Like get it specific to like so that you can like redo the experience. Like, oh,
I was like, that's what I was like at first. I was like,
Okay, but how much more time do we need to finish that front half or the first page? Are we all done with the first page?
yes.
Xander,
yeah.
be honest.
No.
Okay, I'll give you a minute or two. Don't rush. We've got 2 hours, right?
We got like 10 minutes.
Solid.
Oh, my bad. Wait, what time is it then? 2:50. Oh, I thought it was already 3.
We're waiting.
I am done.
Okay. All right then. Let's look at this first one. So, which of the following is required for a psychological experiment? Is there anything that we can just eliminate? It's so very wrong. Sophisticated equipment, yeah, no, that is not what's required. Remember, for it to be an experiment, there is an independent variable, a dependent variable, a control group, and experimental group. Okay. Are there any, what is longitudinal design? What is that? Over time, same group of people studied over time. Does it have to be that? Does anyone know the opposite? Not the opposite. There's like either longitudinal or cross-sectional. So the longitudinal is the same people over time versus cross-sectional, which is like, I'm going to grab a 10-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, and a 50-year-old, whatever, right now. Oh, are you going to say that? Elise, what were you going to say?
No.
Oh, okay. So obviously it does not have to be a longitudinal design because there's also a cross-sectional design as well. Which one is cheaper? Cross-sectional is cheaper because you can do that today. Okay. What's an operational definition? How you're measuring what? The variables. So D is the correct answer here. Precise operational definitions is how the independent variable and dependent variable are measured. Remember how we talked about at the very beginning of the year, we're like, okay, chocolate causes happiness. We're going to have an experiment to see if chocolate causes happiness or aggression or whatever I said. It's like, what do I mean by chocolate? Do I mean 8 ounces of Hershey's milk chocolate, given every 5 hours? Like, what do I mean by chocolate? And also, what do I mean by aggression? Is it like the number of punches thrown per hour, number of curse words used in a minute? Like, how are these going to be measured? And for an experiment, you need to obviously identify what your variables are. What is the independent variable? What does the independent variable look like? How are we going to measure it? You do not need more than one independent variable. One is just fine. And highly generalizable results, like you might get an experiment that this causes nothing. Like the experiment could have not the results you're looking for. So the results do not need to be one way or another. Okay, what about this next one down? All the following are American Psychological Association ethical guidelines, except for what? So, can I erase what I have here? Unfortunately, if I scroll up, it keeps the words, but it doesn't scroll up the words. Okay. Which of these is definitely part of ethical guidelines? What? Definitely. Like, which one is a wrong answer?
Oh, wrong. Oh my God.
Because we're looking for except. Okay, participants must be voluntary. In our drip, does anyone have their drip notes in front of them? It's like deception, something. DRRIPP. Ethical guidelines.
Right here.
Okay, read them for me.
Deception, which is where you tell the truth.
Yeah.
And then debrief, you tell them what occurred.
Okay.
And then right to withdraw, they can leave anytime.
Okay, so right to withdraw. They can leave anytime. And so that means that it has to be voluntary. We're looking for a not. I'll keep reading.
Okay. Informed consent.
This is informed consent.
Before the experiment, you have to tell them what happened. And then privacy, you have to hide their identity. And then protection from harm. If harm done, you need to provide therapy.
Yes. Okay. So while she said deception, can you have some deception? Yes. This shocking Stanley Milgram. If they told, oh, by the way, the guy across the hall from you was not getting shocked at all, everyone would have gone all the way to 100 or 450 volts. Like you wouldn't care. It wouldn't be that big of an issue. There had to be some deception. Some deception is involved. There's some deception, okay. If the whole point of the experiment requires you to deceive, then you can deceive.
Can you explain deep?
Okay, so like in college, I took a psychology class, and part of the grade in that class, you had to participate in some of the grad students' experimental work. You had to; it was part of your grade. But it's like, for whatever reason, they have to give students an option to to opt out of that. So if you were not going to be part of the experimental group of these grad students, you had to do a research paper. You had to do something else. And so by requiring them, there has to be some sort of alternate activity. If it's a course requirement, I cannot force you to be involved because then it wouldn't be voluntary. But if I'm saying, hey, it's a course requirement that you do it, I have to give some sort of alternative project. So there's that. Okay. So now, yeah. All right, moving on. Okay, I heard some discussion on this one. A research psychologist generalizes from a particular sample to the entire population. This is an example of what? Okay, so let's define some of these wrong answers. Give me a wrong answer. Okay, I heard a couple. I heard stratified sampling. Does anyone know what stratified sampling is? Okay, so let's say that my population includes 80% men and 20% women. my sample should also include 80% men and 20% women. If my population is 40% Caucasian, 20% Hispanic, my sample needs to represent that. And so when I'm talking about that sample representing the population, I mean like in all characteristics. Race, religion, ethnicity, sexuality. It needs to really represent, because imagine if I was to like, okay, I'm doing an experiment on high school students in Tomball High School, but then I only select freshmen. Freshmen do not speak for you. So that is like, I should have 25% of my population be sophomores, 25% be freshmen, 25% seniors, and also broken down in race, and then whatever, boys, girls, whatever. Okay, so it's not that one. Descriptive statistics is not trying to guess about the population. It's just describing. Just describing. I'm not inferring. I'm not trying to say what the population would do. I'm just saying, 25% of people do this. But I'm not trying to guess how you would act. If I'm trying to guess how you would act, it's A. Okay. Oh, by the way, random sampling. What's a random sample?
Randomly selected.
Or what does that mean by random? If I say
don't know.
random,
You don't know who it is.
that's experimental, but that's blind. That's double blind. Well, yes, a random sample will represent the population, but for it to be random, Catherine, to be selected. So like everyone, and I'm defining the word random here. Everyone has an equal chance. I'll say to participate. Okay. Grab one of these. A correlational study, by the way, is not an experiment. So what are the things that are not an experiment? Okay, I heard naturalistic observation.
Survey.
What?
Survey.
A survey. You're missing one more. Speak louder.
Case study.
Survey, case study. All of these. Case study. All of these are correlational ways. They are not causational ways. And so if it says correlational study, it's just saying a research method, or it's probably talking about a survey. Surveys are the most common type of correlational study. Okay, can I erase? I'm erasing. Here you go. All right, number 5. What is the correct answer? Hello. I only have 2 sections. Yes.
Luke was on his phone. He wasn't paying attention. I saw that.
I mean, it's not my college credit. Like, I already received college credit for this class. I don't have to do that anymore.
All right, you guys have help. Your mom's picking up Matthew?
I'm assuming so. Will you send her a quick text? Okay. Hey, what's the key word in this problem? Causes. What's the only one that shows causation? Experimental. Notice how it says correlational and survey and case study. These are all the same. Well, okay, these aren't all the same. Correlation is the 3 others. So, like, if it's not survey, if it was survey, it would also be correlation, because like correlation is all 3 of the others, and so it can't be more than 1. So it's got to be. But remember, observation is just like watching people. You guys know what a survey is. What's a case study? In depth, one event, in depth. Think of it as a research project. It's basically research over like a one-time event, or maybe a one-time like person, something happened to them. Remember Kitty Genovese, who was stabbed in an alleyway, and this was what word was that? You're less likely to receive help because people are what?
Bystander effect.
Bystander effect is also called one more other thing. Diffusion of responsibility. Diffusion of responsibility. All right, we're scrolling up. We're scrolling up. Okay. All right, we just talked about longitudinal studies. What's a bad thing about them? What's a disadvantage? You actually might see this question before. I believe I gave it to you on a test. Did anyone recognize this as a question that you've seen before? What answer is it? If I remember correctly, it was a test question we went over because it was one of the most missed test questions. It is B. Participants who drop out during the course of the study may be different in importance from the ways that do not. Okay. Oh, by the way, on D, personality traits do not remain constant across lifespan. No, they do. Yeah. Personality traits typically remain. People do not go from an introvert to an extrovert. They don't go from a worry ward to being like, it'll be fine.
Yeah, but
There's some change, but majority of traits do not change. The big traits, those like cardinal traits, do not change. This is defining. This is describing on A. This is describing cross-sectional. And E is triggering. I don't like that. I just don't know even what to say about it. All right. Let's talk about normal distribution. All right, before we get into normal distribution, I want you to flip your paper over to the second page. You will see that there is a blank normal curve. I will scroll there as well. Let's fill it out together, shall we? This is a normal distribution. I want you to title it as such. Remember, in the middle, we have both the mean, the median, and the mode. The mean, the median, and the mode. What's the mean? Average. Which one is the most occurring? Mode. So what's median? It's the middle, but what do you have to do first? If you have a whole bunch of test grades, no, that's mean. You have to put them in order from smallest to largest, and so that's the middle score. If you have a normal distribution, the mean, median, and mode will be the same, and the average will be all the same number, the same score. So this is 1 standard deviation above the mean. This is 2 standard deviations above the mean, and this is 3 standard deviations above the mean. And it also goes below, -1, -2, and -3. A normal curve will always give you the same percentages, but the spaces between here varies. So for example, let's do IQ. Does anyone know the average IQ? 100. In just a couple of days, you'll know why the average IQ is 100, because we'll talk about intelligence in Unit 9. But for IQ, the standard deviation is 15 IQ points. That means there's plus 15 for every little step, +1, +2, +3, and -15. So -15, -15, -15. I don't want to overwhelm you with numbers because it's not always going to be 15 points. So I'm not going to put the +15, +15, +15. I'm just giving you examples. That means like just the space between, I'll say like +1 and +2 is 15 points. So the space is 15 points. Okay, but we need to know percentages. Does anyone remember what percentage, and this is true whether you're talking about IQ or AP scores or SAT scores, the percentages are the same. What percentage, not Catherine, is 1 standard deviation below and above the mean? 68%. 68% of people, that's a majority, kids. That's a majority. 68% of people fall between 1 standard deviation away from the mean, whether it's IQ or anything that has a normal curve. What about 2 standard deviations? It's higher than that. Higher than that. 95% of scores, whether we're talking about IQ or whatever, are 2 standard deviations away from the mean. And then 3 standard deviations away from the mean, kids? 99, I'm actually going to say 0.7%. We're talking about everyone. We do not say 100%. We are not that cocky to think that every person on that has ever existed is going to be between those two numbers. There are people that have never been tested on IQ, and so we have to account for those people. Okay, so knowing that, I'm going to keep this up on the screen. But going back to that question on the front page, it says, in a normal distribution, which of the following statements is true about the area that falls between 1 standard deviation above and 1 standard deviation below the mean? So it's asking this whole section here. 1 standard deviation above and 1 standard deviation below. What percentage of people are we talking about? 68%. In the middle. It contains the middle, 68% of the population. Okay. All right, 22. I'm going to go back to my questions here. All right. Looks like higher scores equals higher, or is correlated with higher GPA. So this describes what relationship, kids? I heard several things. Is a positive correlation. We're going to quickly draw little sketches of each of these correlations. So positive correlation on a graph is upward sloping. So you can draw like little bar charts, or you can draw a little scatter plot. You can connect that, make a line. None of you. Okay, I just realized y'all are all juniors, yes? Except for this one. Okay. I was going to try to relate it to eco.
To what? To eco?
To eco. Like that, supply. So supply has a positive correlation. But a negative correlation is still correlated. There's still a correlation. And it's just downward sloping. And so this would be like, the more you sleep. Yes. Yeah. So this, okay. But which axis would be which? Because on one axis is going to be the independent variable, which would be sleep. Another axis would be like how tired you are, which is the dependent variable. And so which, is it Y or X that has the independent variable? It's X. So this would be, okay, hold on. This would be,
Is it always going to be?
Yes, except for economics. Scores, GPA, while this would be hours of sleep, and tired. So the more you sleep, the less tired you are. The less you sleep, the more tired you are. That's negative. Normal distribution, we just drew that. Remember, that's that bell curve. Ooh, that's what we literally just did was a normal distribution. Skewed, though, looks something like this. Like, okay, so we're still talking about distributions. Which one of these, the top or bottom, is positively skewed? It's where the tail is, not where the hump is. And so this is the bottom one. So this is positive skewed. Oh, I can't spell. Positive skewed. That just means there's one A and everybody else fails. Or negative skewed. You guys want to have a negative skewed test next week. Because you guys want to have everybody got an A. And one person got an F. While a negative skewed, this is physics, where everyone gets an F and only like one person gets an A. Yeah, everyone can relate, unfortunately. Okay. Any questions on that front page? I have never seen that. I don't know. Statistics people, what does binomial distribution mean? It's a great question. I don't know what it is. I know it's not right. It's 2 humps?
No, yeah.
So it's like, okay. So it's like everyone failed or got an A, but no one got like B's or C's. Nice. That. Now you know. So this is A's and this is F's. Oh, that's like whenever you have a test where you're like, you either knew it or you didn't. There was no like, you couldn't guess, you couldn't like reason your way through. Those tests are usually not very good tests at all. They're just not good tests. Okay, turn to the back. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions on this whole page because these 2 questions over here use the same scenario. So I'm going to give you guys, 6 minutes to work on these questions on the back, just the multiple choice questions. Hold on, let me touch. Oh, God. That was quick.
Yeah.
I know the first 2 questions are kind of singleton questions, but may work together for the other ones. Learning and social, all that good jazz.
On how it's being located on that stuff. I'm a very I did. Medicine relies on. Oh, so if I circle. No, so like. The variable is if the meta, like is the meta, because it relates. It's the one it sees if it chooses a variable, it's given to it. Am I being super Taylor?
I'm halfway listening, so I can't tell. But I think you're right. I think that what I've heard is correct, but I don't know. I'm glad I could help.
No, there's literally like examples. No, I don't know about it. That's wrong. Oh, I think of me teacher advocated to it. I don't know who said that.
I remember hearing that too in like elementary school.
Yeah.
I've
That's the only one I wrote.
Yeah.
I was watching
Teachers are mean. Teachers have grades. Yes.
Teachers are what?
Mean.
Yeah, but how does that like help?
Mean is the average. Teachers average your grades.
Oh.
And then median is the middle of the road.
I never learned that.
And then I don't know. Mode is just the other one.
Mode? I think I always done mode because most of the
Oh.
goes together.
Yeah. It's like mode most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Medium, so.
Bro, it's beyond
Yes.
easy.
That's what I don't wanna do.
We have like 7 grades in that entire class. Like last 1 week, I went to one of my grades were grade
Expect
pro.
like it to be
Grade
like
pro.
secondary.
Like we literally had like 9 grades
No.
in the whole 9 weeks.
I'm in Patty.
One grade is due.
7 years.
I'm in art.
So what grade were you in?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was telling him he was too young or too old at 4th grade. He's like, no. I'm like, well, I got it. I don't know. I'm the oldest. My younger brother, he's like, still kept doing it.
She like, they were like, oh,
It seems like we are done now. We must be done. It got very loud. Hey, Odie. Hey, hey. Who are you? Elise, be quiet. Okay, here we go. 26 and 27. What do you have to do first? You have to put them in order. So, I mean, you should if you want to get the question right. And so it's 1, 5, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 10. Okay. What's mode? What does that mean? Most occurring. Which one's the most occurring? 5. Yay. What about the median? There's 9 numbers here. It's the middle one. There's 4 on this side and 4 on this side, so this must be the middle. The median is 6. But that's because there's 9 scores. What if there were only 8 scores? How do you get the middle? You average the 2 middle. So let's just say that they only had 8 scores here. The middle 2 middle numbers are 5 and 6. So the median in this example would be 5.5 because that would be the average between 5 and 6. So 5.5. Okay. Here we have a question that you may or may not have seen before because this was on a test that I gave you. On a test, the mean score, the average score of a class of 100 students is an 80. The standard deviation is 10. Okay, so I'm going to, if you want to use your phone, you can leave. You don't need to be here. You're going to get in trouble. I know I get paid extra for this, but that's also, I don't have to deal with it. Okay, the average is 80. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And there's 10 points as standard deviation. So that means 90, 100, 110. Seems like there might have been extra credit here. 70, 60, and then 50. But she made a scoring error. That's so silly. What teacher would ever do that? So she decides to correct everyone's grade by adding 5 points. So you add 5 to everything. While the average changes, it goes from an 80 to an 85, the standard deviation, they all move up together. And so the standard deviation is the same, which is still 10. Because that did not change, because she's not like adding 10 points or 5 points to only half the kids. She's adding 5 points to everyone. So while the average does go up, and so like the mode probably changes, the median probably changes, and the mean changes. The standard deviation does not. That does not change. No change. All right, let's look at these last 2 over here. It says a researcher is trying to determine whether a new pain-killing medicine is effective in reducing headaches. 20 adult participants sit in a noisy environment for 30 minutes and then rate the severity of their headaches on a scale from 0, none, to 5, it was just intense. Group M, the medicine group, receives a normal dose of the medicine. Group C, the control group, rests quietly. After 20 minutes, all participants again complete the headache rating scale. The statistically significant differences in the headache severity on the post-test appear on the graph below. Before we get to that, we need to define statistically significant. All right. That is always asked on the AP test, almost word for word every year. Which of the following defines statistically significant or best describes statistically significant? Does anyone remember? It has to do with a certain number that you have to say.
It's on a scale of -1 to 1.
No.
No.
You're thinking of correlation coefficient, which we'll talk about in just a second. Something, something not due to chance? Something, something? 95%.
Are due to chance.
No.
Of
No.
results are due to
Are not due to chance. That's too much. That's too much of an error. Okay, so statistically significant means 95% of the results are not due to chance. Or you could say the exact opposite, or only 5% of the results are due to chance. Okay, so speaking of, thank you for bringing that up because I just realized that no question that I've picked talked about the correlation coefficient. So just wherever you have room, somewhere maybe down here. Let's talk about correlation coefficient. And that is from -1 to +1. So this is going to be a perfectly positive correlation. Say that 5 times fast. A perfectly positive correlation. Oh, by the way, what would that 1 be representing?
Standard
No. Think math. That's slope.
Oh.
That's slope. A negative correlation or a -1 would be perfectly negative, so it'd have the slope of a -1. So this is perfectly negative. And so 0 would be no correlation. They're not related at all. And so the closer it is to 0, the weaker the correlation. So like 0.05 or negative point, I don't know, 2 or something. These are both weak correlations. Okay, going back to question 70. I'm erasing, here I go. Gun. Okay, question 70. Which of the following is the independent variable in this experiment? Okay, going back up here, you can break this whole little scenario apart. And so the doctor's trying to determine whether a new pain-killing medicine is effective in reducing headaches. Here we have the both independent and dependent variable in that sentence. The question is, which one is which? Here's a hint. Anytime there's a medicine, that is the independent variable. Every single time. Every time there's a drug, that's 100% going to be the independent variable. This just happens to also have a drug, the pain-killing medicine. So here, the independent variable is the medicine. Okay, what about the rating of headache severity? What is that? That's the dependent variable. It is a variable. It's the wrong one. Dependent variable. What about the 30 minutes of noise? That's not an independent variable. It's not a dependent variable, but it's what? It's someone gets something.
Jessica said confounding variable.
It's not a confounding variable. That's a good guess, though.
What does it start?
Well, let's send it. Okay, so like, this is what. Okay, so there's the people or the groups, but in this case, there's like 2 variables. No, I don't want to confuse you. I don't want to confuse you. But I do want to point out the groups, though. So up here, does it say group 1, group A, group whatever, 20 adults? Group M?
Yeah.
Group C?
Group M.
Okay, so Why do they have group M?
For medicine.
Oh, I'm like, I'm looking for A and B, and I'm like, I see C. Where's A and B? Thank you, Xander. So this is the what is this? Group M. It's it's medicine group, but it's called the experimental group. So it's experimental group. While the
C is chemical.
yeah, I was looking for it. Actually, it has it there.
Yeah.
Children, there's an operational definition somewhere present. It says they're trying to see if this new pain-killing medicine is effective in reducing headaches. The dependent variable is the reduction of headaches. But how do they operationally define reducing headaches? From 0 to 5. So from 0 to 5 of severity, this is how they operationally define the dependent variable. So this is the operational definition of headache severity. That like how can they test headaches? They just ask people to rank from 0 to 5. That's what they're doing. All right, the last question. Which of the following statements is supported by the results of this experiment? What do we have as an answer here? What did y'all say? Do we all say C?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yes, we do. We all said C, which is saying the medicine was more effective in reducing the severity of the headaches than was quiet rest. So you can see that from here, quiet rest. It lowered, but the medicine group, which is the bar, the liney bar, is definitely better than before. And so remember, the control group, they were just quiet for a little bit. Okay, on the back, I'm going to give you some time to work on this first FRQ. And then I'll go over possible answers here. It is nearly impossible to find an FRQ that just covers like a certain unit without mixing up a whole bunch of units. So while this first one is unit 1 mostly, it does have, it says drive reduction theory, observational learning, so it does pull in from other units, but let's just think of that as a preview to this upcoming tutoring sessions. But I'm going to give you some time to work on that, and then we'll go over answers, and I'll give you time to work on the second FRQ. We'll go over answers, and then we'll be done. And I'll open up questions, and we'll be done. Goodbye, children. Okay, so work with a friend, pair it out. Learning is social. Goodbye.
Olivia's just here.
Do we answer part A without any part B?
I did not give you any room. I just would write out off, set to the side off part A.
Yeah, but do we need to look at part B to know part A? 'Cause it's, I don't know.
Do we need to, part B and A are kind of separate.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're related to eating, but that's the only thing that relates them.
I have a question.
Hmm.
Could you write it from somebody who would believe in drive reduction? Like could you be
You can say according to drive reduction theory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like some.
External? No. Well, I mean, I guess, but I was just thinking about like what the rubric said, and what the rubric said was pretty particular and precise, but something that you're not saying.
From the outside.
Does that have to do with the eye going?
So,
Like something happens that makes you.
Like if you're hungry.
so you can't say because I'm hungry. That would be internal.
What if it's like the lunch bell?
Okay. Yeah.
What about like smell? That's an external.
Like,
Smell good food.
Oh, that's right, okay.
So smelling is going internally, like that's too close to internal.
But that's kind of like classical conditioning, like external cues.
Yeah.
That all.
that's what I was thinking. The cues make you want to eat.
Okay, so on that point, and that point alone, the rubric, remember how I showed you rubrics before on the AP Psych test? It's like one sentence, and it's like if student says something similar to this, they get it, but like honestly, I don't know if they would say that. They would say lunchbox. That's very external. But on this question, it said merely the presence of food being around. Just like you see food, and you're like, oh, donuts. Someone brought donuts today. And then like I wasn't hungry. My hunger wasn't driving me to be donuts. But it was just like just the fact that it's there and triggers like something outside trigger.
It's an external cue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember on the test you have to write in complete sentences. No bullet points. I mean you can bullet point, but you would bullet point a complete sentence.
Okay. It's a 1-9.
Do you guys want to go over A before you start B, or have you already started B? Already started B. Okay, I'll let you finish the whole thing, and then we'll go over both of it together. If you get stuck, talk to your friend. Ask them what they put.
Have you seen it? He's like, they would say it. Wait. You know him? Oh. No, you're fixed. No. Bro, is that home right now? I'm just kidding. Okay. Wait, I don't believe that. I think he's in the 6th grade. I'm sure he's at the intermediate school. Really? Wait, actually. No, you're like. What's that? Wait, what? Mixing is the second one. Maybe it's the studies driven. I said because it has to. What? Hey, that's decisions.
But bother you
Oh,
again.
tutoring, if you tutoring, no. Yeah. Technology.
I was gonna bother you, but you had something to do.
What'd you put?
You and what's her face? Oh, tell her I said hello.
Okay, well, okay.
You look good.
See you later.
How much longer do we need on part B?
1 second.
1 second? Okay, I can do 1 second. Recall versus recognition just now.
What?
Recall versus recognition.
Did you recognize him?
Oh, of course, 100%.
What his name is that?
It's Xander, but now I said it. He's like.
When did he graduate?
Last year. Last year.
What's he doing? That was
Saying hi.
bro, I'm sorry.
It's weird if you're not cool
No.
with like your teachers. Like if you're just like, we've never spoken, but here I am.
So you go to Lone Star? Is that right?
No, I thought he
You go
went
to
to
college?
Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado. Why is he
Colorado.
that?
He goes to School of Mines.
Maybe this is spring break.
Yeah.
Spring break.
It's kind of weird. I came back. Texas, like, I won't.
Well, I mean,
some people like, have they want to I said,
go ahead. Nervous students and adults have people work on certain after they graduate.
yeah, right? Well, that's not as weird as like, coming back to high school. Yeah, you know?
It's weirder when they come to my house.
Wait, did they? What? Okay, but I was thinking like an invite.
Yes, they get an invite.
It's not, okay. That when students came to your house. I remember we said that.
The soccer game.
Wait, what was that?
Who doesn't have
Tell
a
the
soccer?
story. No,
A student came to your house.
Students.
Did you even like
Boy
the
or girl?
student or
A
like?
boy.
We never spoken.
No, that's actually so weird. How'd they find that? I'd be so
What did they
scared.
bring, or did they just?
Let's go over this one and then I'll tell you. Okay, no, because he could be watching. Hey, Mitch. All right. You never met a good Mitch. No Mitchells have ever been good. Mitchells, Michaels. I've had some good Michaels.
I just know Michael, I really don't like.
Yeah. Yeah, it just ruined the whole thing. It's almost like psychology.
This is Taylor.
Hey,
Did you ever have Michael Waldron?
Michael who?
Waldron?
Waldron, yes.
You did?
Yes, I recognize the name, but I could not tell you what this kid looked like. Was he really tall?
Probably like 6'1" or 2.
So yes, the answer to that would be yes.
Yeah, I was just curious. Because you were talking about Michaels. I was just wondering.
Quiet.
What?
Quiet.
Quiet?
I feel like wouldn't say
I don't
much.
know. Could be.
Okay. Hey.
Whenever my mom sees anybody, like even from last year, she just calls everyone sweetie.
Oh yeah, she
Yes.
definitely doesn't know.
Like you're like, oh hey hun, hey dear, hey you kid. And they're all like, I've been to your house. Okay. No, that happened. Lindy babysat for us, but it was before I had Lindy as a student, so she was just my husband's student that came and babysat for us, and then I was like, okay, bye. And then I see her in my class. I was like, oh, that was you. You've been in my house. Okay, let's talk about A. So on each part of A, you could say so many different things, but I'm going to tell you some key words that you definitely should have said. Okay, for drive reduction theory, you want to get the point? You're saying homeostasis. Without homeostasis, it'd be probably really hard for you to get the point. Does anyone want to share their answer if they're not sure if they would have gotten the point or not on that one?
Reducing feelings of hunger
By eating.
by eating.
They're motivated to reduce their feelings of hunger, so they eat?
Yes.
Yes. That would have gotten the point.
So, saying like they want to satisfy their needs, so they eat. Would that be?
Okay, that is not specific enough because Maslow's hierarchy of needs is also talking about satisfying their needs. So it's not saying enough to tell me that you are saying drive reduction. If you say that they have a physical drive that they are motivated to satisfy, then you're good. You use the word homeostasis, you're good. All right. For external cues, we kind of went over it just now, some sort of like outside thing, not hunger. You are not eating because you're hungry. You're eating because the bell just rang and you go to lunch. You're eating because the mere presence of food is like, hey, you eat because you're bored. Something like that. All right, dopamine and reward center. I feel like this one's kind of self-explanatory. When you eat, dopamine is released, which gives you the feeling of pleasure. And so you're more likely to eat like chocolate, things like that. Because those things release dopamine and reward you by a feeling of pleasure and satisfaction and happiness. Okay. Is anybody not sure of whether they wrote is good enough? All right. Observational learning. Can you say something about social learning or modeling or watching other people and how they eat? You're more likely to copy their eating behavior. So if they use chopsticks and you see them use chopsticks, and you have the option to use a fork or something, you're like, well, I'm gonna change my behavior because they're modeling the uses of chopsticks. Or maybe they wipe their mouth every time after they take a bite. And so you see that and you're more likely to copycat that because you're doing what is being observed.
I have a question.
Yes.
Could you say that you watch somebody eat, so you want to eat?
No.
Okay.
Could you say you watch like your parents' eating behaviors or eating habits and that influences yours?
Yes, it'd be great though if you had an example.
Okay.
If you had an example, it's like my parents eat off of round plates as opposed to square plates or something like that. Some pick a behavior and have you model it after them. Okay, and here we have a study was conducted to investigate the role of framing on concerns for healthy eating. Each participant, okay, does anyone know what N means? N100? That means how many participants were involved. That means there were 100 people that were involved. Were randomly assigned to one of two conditions. In the first condition, the participants read an article indicating that obesity was a disease. Participants in the second condition read an article indicating that obesity is a result of personal behaviors and decisions. Participants were then asked to indicate how important it would be for them to eat a healthy diet. Scores range from 1, which is not very important, to 9, which is very important. The results are presented in the table below. So we have the group that read it's a disease, and the group that read its behavior. This is the average score. And so for the disease people, they were saying that it was not very important what they ate because like obesity is a disease. It's not really your behavior. Well, the people that said it was behavior said, oh, obviously they've had huge concern for 6.1 average. They are more, they think that their behavior is probably very important and they have healthy concerns for eating healthy. Okay, very, very possible, kids, that on an AP test, this test, no, but I've seen this test given very similar scores here where they actually have you draw a normal curve fully labeled. So where you have mean 3.4, you are told to put 3.4 and the standard deviation is 1.4 points. So you actually have to do math. It's not hard math, but you make plus 1.4, plus 1.4, plus 1.4, minus 1.4, minus 1.4, minus 1.4, and also for the behavior one, different means this time and different standard deviations. But going back to this question, it says operationally define the dependent variable. Okay, what is the independent variable? What is being manipulated here? The articles that they're not the concern. The independent variable here. Okay, so it's not asking for me. The independent variable is the article. The dependent variable. Ooh, what am I writing? The dependent variable is the. I'm going to use the word. Is the concern for healthy eating. But I'm not answering the question yet. Okay, but this first bullet point says, don't just tell me what the dependent variable is, operationally defined the dependent variable. So you can't just say concern for healthy living, because that's just what it is. That is not how they defined what a healthy living is. So how did they decide what concerns for healthy living look like? Scored at 1 to 9. Yes. So operationally define the dependent variable, the dependent variable. This would be the score from 1 to 9, from not very important to very important about eating a healthy diet. If you just say concern for eating healthy diet or something like that, that is incorrect. You have to say that they reported on a scale, some sort of scale, self-reported. You can say self-reported scale. Luke? No? Question? Okay. On that second bullet point, what makes this study experimental rather than correlational? What did y'all say? What makes this an experiment? Presence of an independent variable. And there's one more term that they wanted you to use. You had to say both of these terms for the point. Close, but no. Random assignment. It's in there, black and white. Random assignment and a control and an independent variable. Okay, because the independent variable could be in a survey, like the whole sleep and study or sleep and tired. They could just have them people report how many hours of sleep did you have, how tired do you feel from 1 to 10. That's a survey, but that does not make it an experiment. An experiment means that there's some sort of control group, an experimental group, and they're randomly assigned. All right, last but not least, what is the most appropriate conclusion that researchers can draw about the relationship between the variables in the study? Give me some answers that you said. There's one word that you have to say to get the point. Anyone want to be brave?
The people who are told obesity is a matter of personal decisions have a higher concern for what they put in their body.
See, I read that as being correct. I would count that correct. But here's what I would have put. The framing of eating disorders as a disease rather than personal behaviors causes people to have a concern for healthy eating. It is an experiment, kids. You guys show causation.
What about the word results?
Results in?
Yeah.
That's okay. What?
I said like it can be shown that the behavior article.
No, because that could be a positive correlation or negative correlation, or it could be a correlation. They can be shown. The graphs show correlation, not causation. Okay. Last FRQ. This one's solely Unit 1, solely research methods. While it looks like a long thing, most of them is just identify this, identify this, identify this, identify this. So I'm going to give you 10-ish minutes. We'll go over, and then that'll be it for the day. Work with a friend. I gave you a lot more space here, so I really want you to work on your sodas. Space out your answer. Answer in order. If it says identify, you don't have to define. But if you're not sure or not, why not? And then apply it to the scenario. If you're stuck on something, let me know.
Can you explain experimental bias? How this could possibly have experimental bias? I don't understand.
So experimenters could, if they know who's in the control group and who's the experimental group, they may treat them differently. So how would you make sure they doesn't double blind? No, not single blind. Single blind will still have experimenter bias.
So
Double blind. What's the difference?
double blind, they both.
Who's they both? The experimenters and the experimenters and the participants.
Yeah.
But single blind is just the participants don't know, but the experimenter does.
No, you're not. Literally, that's the whole point of not knowing. Well, they don't know things are okay. No.
Okay, I want you to share your answers with the people next to you. So share what you each put for A. So turn to people, face them, look at their eyeballs. You speak words to their face, they will speak words to your face.
I put on my paper that the amount of boxes was to the box.
Oh my god.
Okay, let's just talk about A. I'll give you time to talk about B, and then we'll do C, and then we'll do D. So A, it says discuss an issue of operational definitions in the study. If I had worded this question, I would have said, how did they operationally define things in the study? But it just says talk about an issue of operational definitions, which is kind of confusing about, wait, is there an issue? There isn't an issue. They're just saying, what are the operational definitions? And so they're trying to see, does an audience affect the difficulty of manual dexterity tasks? How do they define the dexterity task?
Boxes.
Well, how do they measure if people did well?
The amount of boxes.
How many boxes? So it's measured by the number of cubes that can be placed in a box with a pair of tweezers. That is how they're operationally defining a dexterity task. Is how many of these boxes can be put, or how many of these cubes can be put in a box with tweezers. When they're asking for independent variable, dependent variable operational definitions, it's literally a word search. All the answers are in the paragraph. All you have to do is find them, and please use the words that they actually use in the experiment. Okay.
Wait,
yeah.
Why did it say like discuss an issue?
Yeah.
Like what?
That is how they worded it.
Like they're basically just asking for what the operational definition
Yes.
is.
They're not saying that there's an issue. They're just saying discuss operational definitions. Yeah, okay. So on B, here's the question. It says discuss appropriate procedures for choosing and assigning participants. Notice that it's a two-part question, both choosing and assigning. So there needs to be a two-part answer here. So discuss your answer to the people next to you, and then we'll talk about what's right or not. Thank you. Yes. Here, let me get these little ones. Thank you.
Oh yeah. If they're trying to get
Focus, focus, focus. There we go. Okay, would anyone like to try their best shot at letter B? Both the choosing and assigning. Elise, stop. What's the key word here? Does it actually say it?
It says assigning.
No, it doesn't say it. That doesn't say it. Okay. The key word that they should have said to really help you out here is the word random. So, you first need to randomly select from the population. That's called random selection. So there's two parts that you need to talk about here. Choosing is random selection, while assigning, to no surprise, is random assignment.
Random sample, what's that again?
Oh, random sample could be selection. Random sample here. Those are synonyms. Random assignment. Okay, but you can't just say that. You have to talk about the procedure in which you would do that. Remember, random, it means everyone of the population has the same odds of being chosen. So you could have said a number, like a number or an ID generator or a name generator that is randomly picks them from the population. So that's the first part. There's some sort of number generator, names out of a hat. You could have said names out of a hat. You could have said assign everyone a number, put a number in a number generator, and that's how you pick. But that's random sample, random assignment. But random selection is dividing them into either of the groups. Experimental group, that gets the audience, or a control group, that doesn't get the audience. How would you, so you have your sample, let's say you have your sample of 20 students. You got them 20. Now you've got to split the 10 and 10. But how would you split 10 and 10? Randomly. You could roll a die. You could flip a coin. You could once again do names out of a hat. You can do a number generator, but you need to have both parts. You can't just say pick names out of a hat to be participating in the study. You have to be participating in the study, which is the first one, but then you have to assign the participants as part of the second answer choice. Okay, who's the experimental group?
The one with the audience.
With the audience. The people with audience. What about the control group? No audience. All right, what about the independent variable on E? What? The presence of the audience. What about the dependent variable on F? Performance. The performance of the number of blocks that are moved into like the cube and the whatever. So it's like the number of cubes, or you can say the performance on the dexterity task. That's what is dependent on the audience or not. I will perform. My performance is dependent on if I'm in front of an audience or not. That's how, like, you know the difference between IV and DV. So the DV depends on the IV. All right, discuss appropriate controls for one possible confounding variable. First off, you have to come up with a confounding variable, and then you have to say how you control for it. Okay, does anyone remember what a confounding variable is?
Something outside that intervenes with your experiment.
And it messes it up. Okay, so if I'm doing a performance task and I'm moving cubes with tweezers, what is something besides the audience? The audience is part of the experiment. So something besides the experiment, besides the audience, that would mess me up.
Air conditioning, the temperature.
The temperature, what else? Maybe it's really cold or really hot.
Light or lack thereof.
Okay, give me some more specific ones.
How focused they are.
Maybe how focused they are.
Like if it's early in the morning.
Okay, time of the day. How much caffeine they had. They could just have shaky hands. What if they have Parkinson's? If they have Parkinson's, doesn't matter if there's an audience or not. They're probably going to have a hard time. What if they're missing limbs? All of these are confounding variables. You know, they got like a pincher claw here and like a random pinky. Okay.
That's messed up.
No, you're right. That is gonna mess up the experiment. That's why it's a confounding variable, Luke. Good job.
How about like size of the
The size of the tweezers. Oh, that could vary, yeah. Because if you have like grippy tweezers over here and then slippery, like shiny tweezers over there, for sure. Okay. What is a way? We haven't even answered the question. What's a control? How do you get rid of confounding variables? There's only one. What? No. Because those people. Okay, what she said, if you missed it, was don't include those people. No, because those people, you know where they are included? In the population. And if you just get rid of them and don't have them participate, is that a good sample?
It's not random.
No. So then, how do you get rid of confounding variables?
Oh, you make everyone in the same environment.
There's a word for it, right?
Not survey. Basically, you're all like, so if we just made it not an experiment.
Yeah,
No.
we just get rid
But
of
it's like
random
50% like girls and then 50% guys. Like
Yeah. What is that
I
called?
don't know.
Random assignment. Random assignment is how you get rid of all confounding variables, except for one. So get rid of confounding variables. The answer. Hold on. Random assignment. Because if it's truly random, the odds that all Parkinson's caffeine-related claw people are all in the same group, the odds of that happening are ridiculous. But if you randomly spread them out, you'll get some claw people on one side, some people with crazy like tweezers on another side, some people that have that they're addicted to caffeine on the other side. Like they're going to be spread out. So if they're spread out, they'll kind of cancel each other out. But you don't want to say no claw people invited.
Well, like, what if you don't have hands? Like, we don't have them. Like, you can't participate. Then how you get pulled and you're like, well, I can't do anything. And then it messes with the numbers because it's like, oh, well, they didn't even have hands, so it must be anxiety. Like, no, they don't have hands.
If that is such a common thing, then you could have claw people on both sides, and they would use their mouth or whatever. They would. I'm sure that there are some handicap-related tweezers that are available. Okay, so I also wrote shaky hands and bed tremors. That could also be. But either way, random assignment is how you get rid of confounding variables. But there's one confounding variable, ladies, that is not gotten rid of with random assignment, and that is experimenter bias. So experimenter bias can only be gotten rid of in one way. What's the answer on the last one? Double blind. This needs to be a double blind procedure. Ms. Taylor, how do you have a double blind procedure? Don't they know they'll be part of the audience? Yeah, obviously the participants are going to know if an audience is watching them. But the experimenter does not need the person that walks them out in front of the audience. The experimenter could just be collecting data behind the scenes. And they're getting, okay, well, this group has 30 cubes. This group only has 5 cubes. And so I'm going to write that group down. But they don't need to know which group is in front of the audience. They don't need to even talk to the group ever. So having a double blind procedure, having the experimenter not participating or getting involved with the participants at all would get rid of or control for possible experimenter bias. Okay, any questions here? Look through your notes real quick to see if there's anything from Unit 1 that you guys desperately want to go over. And you're like, we didn't cover this, or we didn't talk about this. I'm giving appropriate time for you to give me questions because I have a question of my own. Okay, question of my own. I've never done AP tutoring like this before. I have typically just lectured and give lecture for the whole time. What do you think about this? I need positive and negative criticism and constructive whatever.
You don't cover the whole unit like you did in the lecture. You go point by point.
Okay.
But then at the same time, it's if we have questions we can ask. so it might be better. But even if you lectured, you would have questions at the end, right?
Yeah.
So.
What if I force you guys to open up your notes into like unit 1 or whatever we're covering? Would you think you'd be more likely to answer or ask questions?
I think this is way better.
Is it way better than lecture?
I like this.
Yeah, because if you have like practice, you can like.
Okay. See, I was also afraid just like there are some things that maybe like correlation coefficient. If you had not said that, there's not a question here about correlation coefficient. So it's just like
Yeah,
would
but it's
that
more
involve
application.
I like it more because the questions are relevant. Like,
Yeah.
like these are AP questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. These came from 2 different tests.
It's just like giving us.
did you really meet Obama? Is that
rather
fake?
than just like
I knew that was fake.
I mean, definitely it's
Yeah.
application. It's more practice too. Like for
It's
like
a whole lot
tests.
easier on me. It's definitely more on you guys.
How many two are there? Are there just 9 for each unit, or like 1 for each unit? So 9.
So we have, and the next one is on Wednesday. Next week we have 2, which is Tuesday, Thursday. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Bye.
We have 8 total. Bye.
Oh my gosh, that's fun.
No, here. I know. So we can cross off 1 down.
You said that you heard us
Oh
talking
my goodness.
Oh, you weren't there for that one. So we have 1 more this week.
I don't like that.
But you see, we're
That's
spacing
so,
effect. We're
like-
spacing it out.
Okay, but it's like each one is 1 day though. So it's like we're gonna have to cover a whole unit each day. And it's like, is it spacing if it's like a whole unit? Because then you're cramming in that day. You're
But I'm
cramming the
assuming
unit.
that you're doing also some stuff not on these days. I'm assuming
I'm trying,
that
to,
you
I'm trying to learn cognition, man.
right.
It's hard to like study and review at the same time. You know?
Oh yeah, because you're like, wait,
'Cause then
what are
you're
we
cramming-
talking about in
oh.
class? Yes,
Oh man.
we're gonna be fine.
I think anyway, if Katie can get a 4, like anything is possible. Like
Be nice.
She was talking yesterday and she was like, I don't know how she said it. She's like, oh yeah, I got a 4 on AP test, and I said, wow, there's hope for me then. Like there's hope for
Be
me.
nice. She's a studious girl.
Good. I think she hoped for the best on this test. Okay, bye, Miss Taylor.
Bye.